Good afternoon, students, alumni, faculty, and staff. My name is Elena Billing, and I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Relations for the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management. Today, I'm pleased to introduce the STHM Alumni Association's Minority Alumni Coalition. The STHMAA-MAC was formed in 2019 by three very dedicated STHM alumni, Janelle Becote, Johanna Best, and Zachary James, with the support and guidance of the MAC's Senior Advisor, Associate Vice Dean Emeritus Jeffrey Montag. Today, Janelle, Johanna, and Zachary, alongside fellow MAC members, will share with you their mission and a preview of programming that will be available to students in the coming semesters. During the webinar, please use the Q&A function to submit questions to panelists. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. I want to recognize that we are coming together today in challenging times, a time when we are grieving and we are looking to create change in our communities. I want to thank the MAC for the important initiatives they are moving forward and thank everyone for joining us here today. Now, I'd like to turn things over to Zachary James so you can meet the MAC.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait till I can actually see your faces, but I look forward to sharing all the people that you're going to meet today to you and introducing you all to the Minority Alumni Coalition. It's been a long time coming with this idea, and the growth has really been spurred by really passionate alumni, a lot of which you will meet today, and really just excited to speak on behalf of the group and say that we're pleased to show and share this with you, and we can't wait to see how you guys respond and how you guys benefit from what we've put together. To kick things off, we just want to tell you about what the MAC stands for. And the M in MAC stands for the ability to mentor, aid, and develop current and future STHM students. These are the students like you who are participating that are listening to us now. And we're also going to be speaking to high school students in the Philadelphia area, but of course, we'll dive into more of that later on in the program. But I'd like to hand it over to one of our co-founders, Johanna Best, who will give you some details about the A in MAC.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So the A in MAC stands for advocate. We want to advocate for diverse representation within the administration, faculty, and staff at STHM. So we know that in order to become a diverse and inclusive environment, you have to be intentional, right? So how do we advocate for that? The basic way that we are going to do that is by being in constant communication with the administration, and so that we know once the university and the school begin to hire again, we know there's an opening for an adjunct position. We know there's an opening for an advisor position, so that then we can leverage our professional and personal networks in order to refer folks to apply for these positions. And we will also have an advocacy portion for prospective students, but that will be kind of covered by our outreach committee. So that's the advocacy work that we will be doing by the MAC. And Zach, I guess I will just hand this off to Janelle.
Yep, Janelle,
our co-founder, Janelle Becote.
Hi, how is everyone? I am Janelle, and I am going to talk about the C in MAC, which stands for coordinate. So we want to coordinate professional development and engagement experiences and opportunity for diverse STHM alumni. I know that this just says alumni, but we also want to hold and host events for our students also. So we want to have networking events for you guys. We want to have social events for you guys, just some meet and greets for you guys to connect with the different alumni, to get familiar with them, to get familiar with ones who may even be in positions that you're interested in, that may be able to provide some guidance, some mentorship, some shadowing, which we'll probably get into a little later. So that C is that coordinate, that we want to engage with you guys, engage also with faculty and other students and other alumni within STHM. So I will send this back over to Zach.
Thank you, Janelle and Johanna. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how we're going to execute on all of these initiatives. We have a series of committees led by, again, very, very passionate alumni. And we're going to have each of those committee chairs and some of their members explain to you what their specific goal and duty is and how that will affect you both now as a student and once you become an alumni. So to kick things off, we're going to chat with the Education Committee, which is led by Ms. Kendra Plummer.
Awesome, thanks, Zach. So as Zach just mentioned, my name is Kendra Plummer and I am the chair of the Education Committee. So thank you all for joining us today. The purpose of the STHM-MAC Education Committee is to bring awareness to diversity within our industry. So as you all know, STHM has a diverse current student body as well as a diverse alumni body, and we want to reflect that in our panels. So from our committee, you can expect to see a few panels per academic year. Some will be in person once we get back on campus, and if not, then others will be online in the same webinar format. Topics will include everything from international students navigating careers in the US, to veteran life after service, to minorities in the industry, to even the age difference that happens within our industry. So while we have a lot of exciting topics and panelists, we still want to hear from you because our reflection is of you as well. So after this webinar, please be on the lookout for a survey from us to be able to get your input. And on behalf of our committee, we look forward to seeing you all soon, and I will pass that off to the next committee.
Thank you so much, Kendra. Next, we have our Events Committee with Neoshi Giles. I said her name first intentionally, because I've messed up Jana's name the last couple times I've said it. But Jana Badnovich, and please correct me, Jana.
Thank you, Zach. So I'm Jana Badnovich. I am class of 2017 and one of the Events Committee co-chairs.
Hi, I am Neoshi. I graduated in 2016. I'm also a co-chair of the Events Committee.
So what the Events Committee is responsible for is planning and scheduling MAC events, locating prospective venues, and facilitating the event day execution. Given that there's uncertain times with COVID, our committee was able to adapt quickly to the changes and turned our events virtual. But we also look forward to planning future in-person events as well.
Yes, and we have already facilitated alumni happy hours discussing topics from industry trends and issues to wellness. And we are also going to begin planning student events. So please fill out that survey so you can suggest what you would like to see.
And with that said, make sure to mark your calendars for July 17th, where we will be hosting an event for the students as well to connect with the alumni.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neoshi and Jana. Next up, we have the Outreach Committee led by Anna Sang and Megan Carty.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Carty.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Anna Sang, and Megan and I are both co-chairs for the Outreach Committee.
As the Outreach Committee, our goal is to connect with, educate, and motivate high school students about STHM.
And we are both very excited to involve STHM students and also our initiatives and to visit all the local high schools. Yeah, so we're super excited.
Awesome. Awesome. We can't wait to see the work you guys do with the high schools in the local area. Our next committee is the Shadow Committee. And this is led by Brazilda Doma and John Krzyzewski.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brazilda Doma. I'm STHM 2013. John
Krzyzewski, 2012.
So I'm the chair of the committee, and our committee is comprised of STHM alumni members who hold different positions within the sport, tourism, and hospitality industry, and other related fields such as higher education, fundraising, etc. Job shadowing program will be a great opportunity for current STHM students to gain firsthand and valuable insight into the real professional world and to also build lasting bridges with us, STHM alumni. The goal is for students to come away with a better understanding of their field of interest and the skills needed to be successful. Job shadowing can be useful in a number of ways. It can help students decide whether or not they will enjoy and feel passionate about a particular job. It's a great way to decide on what type of internship to look for if you are a senior. And lastly, it will help you build and expand your professional network. Now, we, the committee members and all MAC members, are doing this because we want to give back to the school and you as students. Some of us have gone through a similar program during our time at STHM. I, for one, did. And that experience made me and maybe some of us decide which concentration to choose and the career path we followed after the school. And I followed exactly that career that I shadowed. We hope the current students will experience a similar outcome from this program. So I'm an events planner. I work for Fox School of Business, and I enjoy planning events. John?
Great. So in terms of planning and implementation, we plan to roll out the program in the fall semester. It's a bit fluid right now due to COVID, but this is our hopeful timeline. And the program will first be piloted with a select number of students to determine the success of it before opening it up to the entire student body. Students will be able to learn about the program, the mission, the goals, and where they can sign up through a landing page that we will work with the STHM staff to establish. Students will be able to identify their industry of choice by responding to a detailed survey that the STHM CSPD will send to them. The length of the shadowing experience will vary based on what the alum is able to offer. Some may be half-day experiences, some full, some potentially even multiple. And students will receive more information, detailed communication on the length of the shadowing time, the communication methods, transportation, opportunities for Q&A with the host, dress code, those sorts of things on an individual basis. And once the program rolls out, we will be hosting another webinar specifically about the shadowing program in more depth leading up to the launch in the fall.
Thank you very much, John and Brazilda. Next, and certainly not least, we have the Social Media Committee. This is led by Ms. Brittany Benjamin.
Hey guys, my name is Brittany Benjamin, and as Zach mentioned, I run the Social Media and Communications Committee. I want to just start off by saying how proud I am to be a part of this group, just because if I didn't make the connections I made in STHM, I wouldn't have gotten my first internship or my first job. That's partially where my committee comes in, just making sure the connections that you guys make through MAC are large and all-encompassing. We currently manage a monthly newsletter that you guys will be seeing in the next few weeks. We manage a Facebook group and LinkedIn group that are both currently private, just for MAC members, but you guys can happily join after you guys graduate. And then we also manage an Instagram account, which is kind of the main focus of today for our purpose. The Instagram account is STHM-MAC, STHM-MAC. We want to use that account to connect with you guys the most. We'll be posting events that we have for STHM-MAC, events for STHM alumni. We'll be putting diverse news, industry updates, the whole 9 yards. So follow us on that account, STHM-MAC, and also hit us up via that account if you have any questions in the future of events or webinars, or just you want to connect with somebody who's in MAC. We're happy to help, and we're happy to connect with you guys. So thanks.
Thank you, Brittany. That's give you a brief overview of all the different committees we have. Some of these passionate alumni who are going to be spending their time and energy to provide a better opportunity for you students. But of course, we didn't want to schedule your 4 o'clock hour on a Thursday just to introduce ourselves. We thought it would be wise to also dive a little bit into diversity and inclusion topics and how they relate to some of our members. Please note that if you have any questions, please provide them in the Q&A box and we will get to them at the end. But now we're going to talk to a few of our members about some diversity inclusion issues close to them. And to get things started, we're actually going to start with Brazilda. She's going to give us her perspective on the international perspective, a personal perspective on working in the US. And Brazilda, you can take it away.
Thank you, Zach. Yes, a part of being a student at STHM, I was an international worker for about 8 years until last December when I got my green card, and now I'm not considered anymore international. But you can give me the green card, but you cannot get the international out of my heart. But anyway, my experience as an international worker in the US started at Temple University. I was referred for my first job by the Associate Vice Dean of STHM at the time, Jeffrey Montag, and I was hired the next day after the interview, which was surprising and probably the best thing happened to me. My work story is that of inclusion and acceptance. Being an international worker, it's not easy. One must understand the challenges faced by a person like myself. When people move to another country, they are removed from their networks, possessions, circles of influence. The sense of security that comes from living in your home country of origin is replaced by uncertainty. In the new context, we foreigners sometimes develop high sense of alert and awareness, just like any survivor. But guess what? That was the best thing that happened to me. Humans tend to do their best in survival mode, and that is what I did. I work and still work very hard trying to make myself indispensable. Now, were there times when I tried, or no, when I sometimes felt like an outsider? Of course there were, but that survival skill helped me get over them. Instead of upsetting myself, I took the high road. I threw myself in every collaborative project, you can tell my accent, collaborative project I could handle around the university. And that allowed me to get to know a lot of people and vice versa. People started to get to know Brisilda as Brisilda, not just the girl with the Eastern European accent. Sharing life experiences and cultural values helped them understand me, and it also helped me get integrated into the American life. After 9 years, I feel like Temple and my colleagues are my home now. I'm loved and respected. So the moral of all this is take the first step building the relationship. That's what I did. I never stopped knocking on the dean's door until I got that job. Things just don't happen. One has to put the effort. There are so many resources offered to students by the school, and you should take advantage of them. We, this particular group here, is one of them. Reach out to me, us, build the relationship, and see where it will lead you. Some of you took the greatest risk by leaving your home country, and some of you took the greatest risk by leaving your own state. If you can do that, you can overcome everything or anything. Thank you, Zach.
Awesome. Thank you, Brisilda. Now for Latin females in a leadership role, I send it to Lorena Morel.
Hi, thank you all for joining. My name's Lorena. I graduated in 2012. Like Zach mentioned, I am Afro-Latina, and I've been in the hospitality industry since graduation. Specifically, I started in corporate Hyatt and then transitioned in startup hospitality, where I am a general manager now. And I definitely wanted to talk more about this mainly because I'm very passionate about seeing diversity in leadership roles in the industry and really, embracing the Latino community and our growth within the tourism and hospitality. I think in general, what is really great about this program and honestly about the school is there's a lot of honest conversations about where we can see ourselves in a diverse kind of background in specific leadership roles in hospitality. And, I'm specifically part of the Shadow Commission committee, and I really want to make sure that, as a group of individuals, we have a lot of honest conversations as how we can include more diverse backgrounds. Being a Latina in hospitality, there's definitely little women leadership executives. And so I think it's really great to, as a student or as an alumni, to be part of a network like this, to really ensure that you network with individuals where you're curious to learn more about and curious to really, create those opportunities to meet individuals who are of similar background, if not of backgrounds or industries that you're curious to know. In general, really open to learn more about students or alumni that would be interested in really creating a diverse experience for everyone, and really great opportunity to have these conversations today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lorena. Next, with perspective on white males in tourism and hospitality management, we have Jacob DeAngelis.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me on and allowing me to share my perspective as a white male in the hospitality field. I think one thing about being a white male in the hospitality field that's actually really nice to see is that because us as males and white males specifically, we're such a dominating force in society as a whole, and products are made specifically for us, and in all advertising we are the primary demographic that is shown in the hospitality industry, at least in my experience working in San Diego and now in Washington, D.C., where I currently am. In San Diego, I had a very diverse workforce with a lot of Latinx members, and now here in DC, I have a lot of African American and specifically African American women on my team. But I think a issue that is still very pervasive that is very easily seen across organizations, especially with hotels, in my experience, is that hotels like to say that they have very diverse workforces, which is true when you look at a hotel as a whole as, 500, 800 employees. But then when you see where all the concentration of power and how equitable that really is, and you see that your leadership committee is made out of, let's say, 10 to 12 people, and 10 of them are white men, and you have maybe one person, one queer person on your leadership committee or one person of color on your committee, and see where we're still lacking in the leadership aspect, and something that we as white males in hospitality need to, lift up our minority coworkers and make sure that we have equal representation at that table to make it more equitable, so we don't have to continue saying our diversity is great, but we could still work on the inclusion aspect. And I think myself as, a white male working in hospitality and hotels in general is probably the thing that I would most like to see change. I'm excited to, help in changing.
Thank you, Jacob. Much appreciated. Now for some thoughts on moving beyond implicit biases, and specifically as it pertains to African American women, we have Kendra Plummer.
Hello again, everyone. As mentioned before, I'm Kendra Plummer, STHM class of 2013, and I am the founder and managing partner of Elise Capital, which is a hotel real estate investment and advisory firm. The purpose of my firm is to create a pipeline for more women and minorities to get into the ownership side of hotel ownership in real estate. So throughout my career, I have often either been the only one that looks like me or one of very few. So as someone who's both Black and a woman, I've stuck out as a double minority navigating my entire career, which has taught me numerous keys throughout my experience that I'm still applying in my career today. So I just wanted to share them with you all. For those who are not familiar, the hotel real estate world involves the actual ownership side of the hotel. So this is the segment where someone sees a hotel, they're interested in it, and then they go out and put the money down and acquire it, or they develop a hotel concept and then they develop that hotel. And it's a great investment vehicle. A lot of my role involves boardroom meetings, investor pitches, and negotiations in rooms full of people who are older than I am, leaving me as a person who is significantly younger than my counterparts, and often I'm talked over. So this experience taught me to be bold because my work and my voice deserve to be heard. There are nearly 55,000 hotels across the US. However, less than 2% of the hotel owners are African American. So as a Black woman on the path to hotel ownership, this experience of being one of few again taught me to create my own path because I am not the traditional hotel owner. So the traditional hotel owner typically has someone that looks like them and can vouch for them, or they come from a legacy of wealth. And that's not my story. Someone else's journey may not work for me, and that's okay because I've learned to maneuver to make it work for myself. So I've created my own path. And here's another fun stat. Only 1 in 22 hotel investment officers in the US are women. So being in spaces where there may not be a lot of other women or a wide selection of female mentors, it taught me to be persistent in moving up the ladder to reach the goals that I have for myself. So with these key experiences, I have now been able to break ceilings and molds for what people thought I should be doing and actually launch my own investment firm. And as you continue to navigate across your own careers, I want you to remember that your goals are truly possible, no matter if there's a ceiling that has to be smashed or a typical mold that people think you should fit in. So just be bold, create your own path, and be persistent to reach where it is that you want to go, no matter what the odds against you may be.
Fantastic, Kendra. Thank you so much. Now, we had some perspectives from some of our alumni. We've actually gotten some questions in from some of our participants. And by all means, if you still have any questions, whether they be specifically for one of our guests, one of our members, or just questions overall, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section and we'll try to get to them prior to ending this webinar. But to kick things off, we have one question coming in. How do cultural differences affect your day-to-day job in the hospitality industry? So this is to all of our hospitality industry MAC members.
I can speak to that. I relocated from the Caribbean and came to Temple, and in my mind, every city and state was the same. I moved here and didn't expect the culture shock that I did because I traveled to America quite often, but never at the moment that I'm living here, and gave up, you know, similar to what Griselda referred to, gave up my way of life, my family, and all of that to move here. Fast forwarding to graduating, starting my career with Hyatt, it's interesting to see the difference of how you are accepted in different areas based on your cultural differences and based on how diverse that city may be. At this point, I've lived in 6 different cities, and I can tell you that all of them have been a different experience, from Dallas and Boston to DC, where it's super diverse. It's very interesting to see that. And from a day-to-day, I think, you know, I've seen a lot of positive growth. As I said, fortunate to work for a company like Hyatt and see the growth within Hyatt from different cultural organizations that's within Hyatt, and even things just as High Pride, which is our Pride group, as well as Women at Hyatt are some of those things as well. But seeing things just as, you know, as of last year, we started doing a training that was that's titled Leading Inclusively, and it speaks to all of those things of how do we as leaders lead in a way that doesn't make other people feel excluded. That can be as simple as your day-to-day conversation sitting in the employee cafeteria, or how do you lead them and understand some of those cultural differences that may not be normal to you, but that's normal to them. So I think it's great to work for a company that have recognized that, and a lot of companies are recognizing that when you look at your niche business markets and how to cater to those different niche business markets. Companies have been pushed to look at how do you cater and service different cultural groups, and that has helped to trickle that into the day-to-day of the workforce.
Awesome, Megan. Before we move on to the next question, does anyone else want to add to that? Okay. Next question we have coming in. What are some initiatives the companies you are part of take to promote diversity and creating a culture of inclusion in the workplace?
I can go with that. And it's funny that question came up because today we had a town hall at Fox School of Business, which is a combination Fox School of Business and STHM. And the dean promised to build a diversity council. It's not that he promised today. As a matter of fact, the incoming new dean, the diversity and inclusion has been one of the pillars of his strategic plan, which I was part of when that process was going on. And but however, the initiative, it's not only for the school. The message, the way I perceived it, what the dean was saying, that initiative should start within everybody. So everybody should make a step toward diversity and inclusion. And I can give an example how we as a department have done that. When we hire people or when we go out there, we try to get people that are different from us. And that was the case, for example, with the new employee that we hired. We had completely different thoughts on certain subjects because that's how the interview was built. And she had different perspective. We had different perspective on certain matters. And that was so beautiful. And that is what caught us. And we had similar questions like that because she brought that diversity of thought in our department. And that's what we did. I mean, that's what we needed, and that's what we got. So that is one side of it, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, Fox is doing, along with STHM, I'm sorry if I keep saying Fox because that's where I work now, but at heart, I am STHM 100%. So I'm pretty sure both schools are gonna do great within this initiative because it's too hard to many of us.
Great. Would anyone else like to chime in?
Yeah, I can backpack off a little bit off of Briselda. I work for a law firm, WilmerHale, here in DC. We do have 13 global offices, and kind of like Briselda, we also did have a town hall meeting this week. But before the town hall, we do have a diversity and inclusion committee that is mainly based off of like the attorneys and partners. Because it is a law profession, they kind of have these programs and trainings more hands-on, more active for the lawyers and attorneys. We did get some statistics that 70% of our staff members are in the minority group. So when they recognized that they had included a lot more hands-on, they're planning on doing some committee for the staff side and also some trainings that they want to implement. Of course, probably now will be virtual until we kind of get back in the office, but those are all in the works. And then our senior administrators definitely want to make sure that we have outside consultants, outside programs that are available not only for the attorneys and lawyers, but also for the staff side, and making sure that this is an ongoing conversation and that it's not a closed book, that, you know, if we need to talk, we have someone to talk to, we have professionals that we can speak to as well, which is awesome.
Great, great, great. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to the next question. This is a really good one. Do you intentionally try to work for companies that have diverse leadership and management? And kind of a follow-up, how do you find those companies?
Yeah, I would love to answer that. That is a really amazing question because I think, you know, even when I graduated in 2012, a lot of companies would say diversity on pen and paper, but you couldn't see it in the leadership or in peers where you, you know, would like to be mentoring. And so with time, and I think as we become more educated on what diversity means, and it's not just on race or gender, it's you know, sexual orientation, and I think it's become more authentic, the conversation as to how the company is making it a priority to be diverse. And so it's become more easy for someone who is looking to really engage with a company that's open with creating more diverse experiences or culture, to find that in easily in their company website. But also you can have conversations during the interview process where you can easily ask, you know, what is your culture about? You know, what are some things that I can find that really would speak to some of my values, which is diversity in the workforce. For me personally, you know, I've been fortunate with interviews that I've been in. I've been able to visit the company, you know, walk through the space. And I always, if you're able to do that within your interview process or when you're looking into a different company, definitely do that, because you'll be able to have those dialogues with individuals and really understand what really makes it, you know, the best culture for you. And in addition to that, you know, I kind of LinkedIn stalk people too, which is not great, but I think it's good to also just, you know, go on LinkedIn, see pictures of the company, see events, things that they have. Some companies are very open if they have committees for, you know, diversity or for specific minority groups. So I think it's really great for you to do a little bit of stalking when you can and learn a little bit more as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Does anyone else want to add to that?
To piggyback a bit off of what Lorena mentioned, you know, I think that as I grew more in my career, it has become more important to me. I think, you know, when you start as an entry-level leader, you're used to leading and managing teams that are diverse. But when you start to look the other way, is your leadership team as diverse as the diversity that some companies speak to? So it's really become more important to me as I grew in my career. And I find myself, if I'm looking at a company, I am clicking on that executive team and looking at what that company looks like and looking at some of their initiatives. And it's also made it more easy to have a conversation about diversity and is that important to that company, and see if you, I think it's very important for us to interview companies as much as they're interviewing us. And if those things aren't aligned, then it might not be the right place for you.
Indeed, indeed. And I'll actually add on to this one as well. I spent 7 years in pro sports, and for the last 5 have been an independent consultant, working for numerous businesses, some that were diverse, some that weren't. And just personally, I kind of took it upon myself that if I were working with a business that was not diverse, that I did what I could to make them understand diversity and bring diversity to the table, not just from my presence, but from how we talk on social media to who we're interacting with as vendors. I had that ability to provide that insight and that focus, which then broadened the horizons and really opened the eyes of some of the employers that I've had. So not everyone has that opportunity to be in a space where you're not directly working for someone and you're more in a consulting role. But that's just one thing that I've tried to take on is, you know, bringing that diversity and inclusion to wherever I go, and that being beyond just my presence, being with a company. Another question we have here is, have you noticed a shift in diverse hiring practices and inclusivity since you first entered the workforce? So this is for all of our alumni, since you've graduated, you had your first opportunity to now, have you noticed a shift?
I'll touch on that a little bit. My name is Allison. I graduated a little while longer than some of the people on the talk today, back in 08. So I've had a little more experience. I definitely think, you know, Zach, Lorena, Brazella, you guys, a lot of people have had so many great gems they've dropped right now, basically speaking to inclusion. And I've noticed the shift in the practices, you know, it's basically who you know, right? Like everyone, if you know someone, you get the interview. You may even get the foot in the door, and then what you know keeps you there. A lot of times the old boys network, a lot of times that's just been the protocol that we've all, for myself and before, have experienced, where now as diversity and inclusion, that conversation continues and it's no longer being kind of swept under the rug, and it's something that a company's forced to do. There's actual people there that value the reasons behind why you're hiring different diversity, cultural, like more than just race, like your origins. I think when generationally now, as it's changing, as like a lot of us alumni, we can bring what we know into the field, and we can genuinely have these questions when we're interviewing. And like the great thing about, if you're interviewing with a company, like it is a two-way street. It's not just them interviewing you, you are interviewing them. I know someone else touched on that. So I do see that people understand like these questions, it shouldn't be scared to ask questions, especially when you get to a leadership role. I think for myself personally, I take that responsibility that I need to be inclusive. I need to be, you know, understanding that I have a responsibility now that I'm in this position. When I'm interviewing, that representation matters. It's easy for people to look like me to be in my role. And I don't know if I mentioned, I work in property management. I'm a manager there. So I feel like each individual person, as they take the responsibility and make sure that they're interviewing and having, like Zach said, if your company isn't that inclusive or isn't that diverse, you make a point that you bring that along. If you can hire vendors that maybe are all qualified, but if you can include diversity in that, you take that role on yourself.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you. Does anyone else want to touch on that question?
Yep, I'll jump in on that. Hi, everybody. Rachel Daly, 2011 graduate. And I currently work in destination management for Valley Forge Tourism. And I've kind of come up, you know, through a bunch of different companies of different sizes over the years. And I think what I've noticed is that there's a big difference between how smaller companies, you know, integrate and how larger companies do, and you know, what kind of resources they can put behind it, and even just the energy that gets put behind it sometimes. So I would definitely agree with what Allison said, that you know, when you're interviewing, it is a two-way street. You know, ask the questions, you know, kind of feel it out, and make sure it's right for you. But as somebody who is in a leadership position or coming up within a company and you notice that there's a lack of diversity, it is really, it's really up to you to say something and to try to, instill the energy to change it. Because if the people in the company aren't going to do it, the pressure is certainly not going to come from the outside. So definitely keep your eyes open for that.
Awesome. Another question that we have here, how can we create more diversity among the STHM staff and faculty? I'm assuming this is coming from someone who probably wasn't here at the very beginning, but we are going to be focusing on advocating for more diversity among staff and faculty, primarily through spreading the word to our resources and our reach. Already we have about 100+ members of the MAC, and we will be communicating with Dr. Jordan and others at the school to know and understand when opportunities become available so that we can share it amongst our community to possibly help find qualified candidates that are diverse, that would be interested in those opportunities. So we're going to be an active arm in trying to help in that space. And we have one last question here. A big part of the STHM student body are international students. How can you help them find opportunities abroad? I'm going to ignorantly kick that to Brazilda, but before we get there, I'll say there are going to be a lot of items where we want to learn what you need and how we can figure out a good way to help. And these will be very collaborative initiatives with Temple. I think that's a question that also goes towards some of the folks at STHM. And we hope to be a collaborative part of figuring out answers and solutions to questions like that. But being one of our most outspoken international students, as a member, Brazilda, if you have any opinion towards that, please feel free to chime in.
Of course. When have you ever seen me without an opinion? Probably that question is dear to my heart, because I know most of international students, if we come here, we don't only come here for the excellent education, but we want to get the experience here. And some of us want to take it back home, and some of us who we want to continue here like I did. So depending on the situation, my best advice for any international student that is listening is build the relationship, get to know people, get to know your peers in the class. Even though you may fear that that language barrier and you think that you are saying something wrong, don't fear that. You must understand that you are well qualified as long as you have been admitted to this school, because it's one of the best schools in the country. So you have passed all the qualifications. Now, the pronunciation, it's only a very small part of what you probably fear, and don't fear that, but building those connections with your peers and building connections, as Lorena said prior, getting into LinkedIn, meeting with other alumni, and you can tell sometimes, who is local and who isn't. Like, people see my name and they know right away, for example, that I'm Albanian because my name gives it away. So get connected with us. Some of us have connections out there and we can put you in touch. Now, maybe that putting in touch might not be for the long run. You might not have a job for life, but at least you'll get a job for your OPT. And once you get that 1 year experience, you will be well qualified to go back home and work somewhere nice. Now, my other advice would be, when you keep looking for internship, or for either internship or even OPT, you have to look for international companies. You cannot look for small companies. Now, I'm not saying that the small companies will not give you the same experience, but the purpose, and I'm pretty sure that is the purpose that you are looking for because you want to get a job. The international companies will be able to, probably after the internship, if you work hard, and as you should, you might get a job either here or somewhere in the world. And I've had, during our time, when I was at STHM, one of my best friends, that's what she did. She had an internship with Marriott over here, and now she works in Vietnam, and she's very happy. She still continues to work for Marriott, and she has gone up the ladder. So that would be my advice. Another thing, don't forget, not only STHM, but Temple University has resources for you. I don't know how many of you have ever visited the International Student Affairs Office, but they have constantly events after events where they invite employers from outside, employers that are educated on hiring international students. Mind you that some companies, not the multinational companies, but I would say smaller companies, they are not really educated on hiring international individuals. And I know most of you have the perception that to hire an international, you have to be better than a domestic person. That's incorrect. You don't have to be better. To hire someone, you just have to be capable to do the job and you can work. You need that better than others only when you are sponsored for a green card. But I'm sure most of you just want this great experience that you get in this country and take it back home and share it for your country or make your country better. I hope I answered, but I'm at Fox anytime. You can come and see me in my office, hopefully when we open up, or we'll share our contacts. You may feel free to email me at any time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic, Brazilda. Thank you so much. We have one last question, and again, was covered earlier, but we'll just touch on it. Some students really need that one-to-one mentorship and connection. Will there be any direct mentorship program students can look to? Yes, there definitely will be. Brazilda, who just spoke, chairs our Job Shadow Committee, which is all about job shadowing and mentorship. So more information on that will be coming out as the months roll on. We do have some resources for you to stay in contact with us. But that's it for our Q&A session. We're actually going to wrap up now, and I just want to bring back in Janelle and Johanna just to give you guys some updates.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank everyone again for joining us today. We just want to give one update on an event that we do have coming up, that is Student Geared. It's going to be next month on July the 17th. We want to have like a meet and greet with you guys just to introduce you guys to some more alumni who are involved with MAC and are members of MAC. And then to also have another question and answer opportunity. If you have more questions or more things you want to dive into, we'll be able to do that also at this meet and greet. Just stay tuned for the time, but it will be next month, July 17th. I believe that's a Friday. So stay tuned, and we're looking forward to meeting some more students and having you guys meet some more MAC members.
And then just to follow up again with our social media committee, please follow the STHMAA-MAC page on Instagram. That's how you'll receive a lot of our communication, and we'll have updates on the upcoming events. So we look forward to seeing you guys at the July 17th mixer.
And we're going to end this now, but you know, it's a beautiful thing. We've actually gotten more questions even over the last few minutes. I'll mention one of them now, and if anyone wants to make a statement about this or a response now, they can. But I'm also fine with us eventually making this a full topic. But we have a question here saying, what advice can you give to double minorities, African-American women, etc., exploring career and internship options? How can you get future employers to take you seriously in the industry? So if anyone would like to chime in on that, please do. But I also feel this is one of the many topics we are going to have more in-depth discussions on as the weeks and months roll
on. I'll jump in. I think Kendra alluded to a lot of this earlier, being a double minority in that room. And I mean, I remember sitting on leadership teams where a lot of the times I look around and I am the only female, Black female, and I'm fortunate to sit on a leadership team right now that is comprised of 7 women and 1 male. So I think that it's something to really not be intimidated by, and that's easier said than done. I think sometimes we tend to get in our own heads and remember that you are where you are already for a reason. So use that, use your skills and your and don't shy away, don't back down. I think that's one of the biggest things, is continue to be who you are, continue to lead, continue to share your viewpoints, all in a professional manner. And I think that those are things that are going to continue to get you to thrive and be where you need to be when it comes to being double minority and on the leadership team as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Megan, for taking our bonus question at the end there. Before we log off, just want to give a big thank you to Elena, Associate Director of Alumni Relations, for helping us stay organized and kind of get all of our programming in place over the last few months. Another big thank you to Dr. Jordan and Mr. Hansen, who have also been very supportive in our group since we first met with them over 9 months ago to discuss what we wanted to create. And another big special thank you to Dean Montague, who's been a great guide for us getting everything started. And of course is the webmaster who happens to know every single face you saw on this webinar. So big thank you to all of them. We look forward to supporting you all in the future. And again, just as Joanna and Janelle said earlier, please follow us on Instagram and wait for that survey to come your way. We can't wait to get more feedback and information from you for how we can better support you. So again, thank you for joining Meet the MAC. We hope you can join our happy hour in about a month. And we appreciate it. Thanks for the time, and we look forward to connecting with you all soon.